Hello and welcome back. This is not going to be a full video or a gameplay video, really. This is just a brief interlude. I know it's been a while since my last video, and I thought I would leave this. So I suffer from long COVID, for those who haven't heard me say it at the start of many of my videos. And that disease, which comes, it's the after effects of a COVID infection that can leave you disabled for years. There are people like me who've had it since 2021, 2022, have not gotten better to this day. I just read the story of a 12-year-old who got such a bad case he needs assistance devices like wheelchairs to move around. He's 12, and it's kind of like, I guess, how kids used to get polio, except it also affects his brain, his energy levels, gives diarrhea, GI issues. A lot of it's familiar to me, except uh, maybe I don't have quite that bad of muscle weakness, though my legs do get shaky. Of course, I climbed mountains and stuff before I got sick, and I've always had very strong legs, and sometimes I can barely walk around. So if I was a little weaker, maybe I would be in the same boat. Uh, anyways, the disease comes and goes. There are good weeks and bad weeks, and I've had some bad weeks lately. It's been tough to balance this, to balance applying for disability programs, state one away at the same time that Medicaid might cease to exist in the United States because of Trump trying to cut it. Um, and that the state welfare program I might get, and then it might cease to have funding a few months later if the state suddenly has to pick up the tab for a lot of things the federal government used to. So it's been rough. And with my low energy, it's been a little tough. This game is kind of overwhelming at times. I thought I would show a few things, though, I've been up to. Um, redesigned some of my aircraft. First of all, um, you'll see they renamed them. These were AR 196, whatever. These are now Messerschmitt models. Designed by Messerschmitt, manufactured by Messerschmitt. Messerschmitt is the agility focus light aircraft designer. And I think it even calls it that. It just calls it light aircraft designer, but it is an agility focused one. And I've gone just through actually only 3 nodes that actually buff stats, 20% extra speed and agility. And they have higher production efficiency gain than Arado Flugzeugwerke. So while I'm still slowly working that because I'll need it for transport duties and producing transport planes in mass, it's less a priority than Messerschmitt. So if I wanted to get the production under them. Now to do that, you'll notice these are naval bombers. They have the same models as before. You can't do that if it's just got a torpedo. So I gave these a single light machine gun. It only adds 1 to the cost. And because Messerschmitt has such high speed and agility bonuses, this actually results in a faster, more agile aircraft because of being able to use that MIO despite the extra weight. This won't do much unless they're engaged by enemy fighters while they're trying to do a naval strike mission, which I don't think can happen during the naval battle itself, but if they're patrolling out at sea and they are not currently in naval battle, they can sometimes get caught. That's not likely in most areas, but in the eastern North Sea or the English Channel, there's a small risk of it. That said, it's not probably worth it normally, if not for the fact this buffs the agility of the aircraft. Now, you may ask, agility, why would you want that? That's because naval bombers actually are harder to shoot down for ships if their agility is higher. You should check the Hearthstone 4 wiki if you're curious. None of the stats matter except for agility, which reduces the chance of ships shooting down aircraft before they get to attack. This effect reaches a cap at 44.5 agility. So it says 44.6. It's already capped out. Without Messerschmitt, I'll just show. let's say I did this, and I can no longer apply Messerschmitt, then on naval strike missions, they would only have 38.5 agility. So even though the planes would be slightly cheaper, they get shot down a lot more by ships. And their survivability is ultimately limited by reliability, i.e. air accidents, and by getting shot down by the ships they're attacking. I've never used such high agility naval bombers, so maybe I'm overdoing it. It's possible. Even the Agaridia Flugzeug or whatever was Arigato, it's possible that they actually have such high survivability against the ships themselves that this isn't worth the extra cost. And it's air accidents that are the main cause of losing fighters. I don't know, but I do know the agility helps. Not just with that, but some fighters, the AI likes to deploy some pretty shitty like interwar fighters with like 45 agility or 42. Sometimes if the wing has less agility, they'll get an agility bonus, and the speed will definitely help, even if they're slower than fighters that attack them. The fighters will get less of a relative speed buff, and if they're faster, enemy fighters won't get that at all. This is a pretty high speed for an aircraft, so I expect, well, until like jet fighters start popping around, nobody will get speed bonuses on them. Kind of like how dive bombers are more survivable. Not because the air defense to IC cost ratio, which can actually be worse than tactical bombers, but because they have much higher speed. That's what makes them more cost effective. They also have cap out at less ground attack per aircraft. And since it's number of aircraft that's limited in a CAS mission, you actually can get less support for your ground troops, but it's worth it because the dive bombers are so much harder to shoot down. You'll end up with a lot more in the skies, and hopefully be able to cover more battles that way. Despite the more limited range. So that, and the idea is to concentrate as many of my factors as I can on Messerschmitt here. So the only things on Agaradio are some scout planes, medium aircraft Messerschmitt can't produce, some heavy fighters, very cheap heavy fighters that'll act as trainers for probably eventually improved medium heavy fighters someday, but in a crunch they can also be used to provide a bunch of air superiority for an offense or defense. They'll get shot down a lot because of their relatively low agility and speed compared to small airframes. But they provide more air superiority per IC. Although I think, let's see, I could probably, no, actually I could produce really cheap small fighters and just spam them and get more air superiority per IC, so that wouldn't entirely justify doing it, but they also have range, and like compared to these, the range is like twice as much. So I might use them for push and pause, and I'll lose them like a lot. However, they also should have low air attack and agility, so they're at a lowest priority for engaging dogfights compared to any dedicated fighters, and they shouldn't actually get targeted that much, is the hope. I know they won't attack that much. I could be wrong about them getting targeted, but I think it's your best dogfighters, the ones that get shot at first, and at low air detection values, like even the wiki is extremely unclear on this. At like 8%, 10%, the vast majority of your air wings don't actually get shot at. Could be a mistake. Maybe I should just not even bother with these. But they are trainers, as I said, for training up better heavy fighters someday. These are scout planes. Scout planes to advantage, even though small airframe ones can actually be more cost effective for recon directly. They actually cost less and are way harder to shoot down. The ME-87 recon here that I've designed for that purpose, which I'll show again. Where is it? I even chose them all. That looks like a nice clean fuselage. I have this as bomb locks, which don't add any weight when it's not on cast missions, but allows me to get the cast agility bonuses from Doctrine, and then gets the Messerschmitt agility bonuses. So that has higher agility, or at least not less than a lot of enemy stuff. Has some heavy machine guns, because a lot of times this will just be the only air wing in Western Poland when building up recon, which means they'll definitely get shot at and definitely be shooting back. And so this will just carry out a little bit of attrition for a cost of 3. So a little more than 10% increase in cost. I'll be able to shoot down a substantial number of Polish fighters with these. But yeah, those may be a better overall deal, but I need 100 in a wing, whereas this can be just 10, and it can be used in peacetime. The HS-126. Well, this is obsolete, and once this current aircraft is done, it's like halfway. I'll probably switch this to the ME 196E, which is, I've created 2 variants, one with longer range than the other. The difference you notice is this has both drop tanks and extra fuel tanks, and this lacks the drop tanks. They both have armor plating. Now the previous version replaced didn't have the armor plating. The AR-186 was drop tanks and I think a machine gun. But the combination of extra fuel tanks and armor plating can actually get you higher max speed and higher range and more cost-effective air defense. It's just a better overall deal. I had to use the Focke-Wulf 190 and modify design to get that. Got Junkers aircraft. Dive bombers are designed by Junkers because they get a little more ground attack. Were produced by Messerschmitt. Because my dive bombers at low air detection, they get shot at very rarely. The escorts take almost all the hits. So if they're not losing aircraft very often, enemies, and they're still dive bombers, which are already a lot faster than tactical bombers, then I think it's okay. And eventually, I may stop producing these, which are both. I have with the HE112s, a standard, a light, and a heavy version. The heavy has the highest ground attack possible. Well, I mean, I could do a small bomb bay, but without completely screwing air defense, because these are slow, so they take a lot of hits. And I'm losing steadily there. Control of the skies has become more even, so I can't afford things that get shot down too easy. Just because the sheer amount of industry the Russians have, the Soviets, and also the EU, which I'll be capitulating with ground warfare. The HU-12 is a little harder to shoot down than the heavy. A little less a little less heavily armed. And then the light is the most slightly armed of the 3. You can see max of 22.4 ground attack. This is 26.5 on a cast mission. This is 28.5. The light also have fewer turrets, because if I'm investing less in bombs, it's not as worthwhile to defend things heavily. And I also noticed that my bombers were a lot of times not actually getting shot down by anything but enemy divisional anti-air. That was the primary threat to them. So this just invests less in defense turrets, because air defense makes no impact on divisional anti-air. They're mostly getting shot down by the divisions they're attacking. And they lack the bomb locks also because the pilots were trained on versions of tactical bombers that didn't have bomb locks, and I can't use the existing air wings. So this is not an optimal design. It's more to reinforce existing air wings, whereas the heavy and standard I would consider more cost effective. The all of these will eventually upgrade with can turrets. For instance, 4 heavy turrets can be replaced by 2 can turrets, and you get an aircraft with the same air defense but higher max speed. So it's a slight improvement. Okay, well, enough about that. In one of my other games, I started a multiplayer game as the U.S.-Mexico with someone, but then the Mexico guy might not be continuing it. I might have someone else take him over if he really doesn't want to do it. Take over Mexico. But I've been getting more familiar with Navy. There may be changes I make to the Navy in the future, but I'm not swimming in Navy XP like in that game, whereas the U.S. I took the Naval Reformer Admiral, and that was a mistake because I keep overflowing Naval XP and it going to waste. I should have taken a Chief of the Air Force instead because I never have enough air XP as the U.S. there. But here, with all the air combat in the 2 civil wars, I'm working on getting this improved advanced artillery that has all the upgrades and working my way to infantry equipment 3. This is in preparation for attacking soon enough, getting a little extra breakthrough for infantry, which usually actually do suffer crits when attacking, and for more marginal situations for tanks and motorized, which usually have enough breakthrough but not always. Field hospitals 3, because once I have a bit more industry and manpower, I'll probably actually start throwing field hospitals on my divisions. It's very industry intensive, but this is going to be a long slog to this game, a lot of wars. And destroyers. Some of you may notice I haven't bothered to upgrade my destroyer designs, only my cruisers. That's because I am going to just do 1940 destroyers for a long time. I'll eventually do the 40 cruiser hulls, but it's very likely I'll just throw the engine 3s on a 36 hull to save Navy experience. While upgrade to a 40 hull will provide better reliability. Reliability is less of an issue than with destroyers, where a single critical hit can sink a destroyer. Cruisers can usually survive most types of crits, except maybe main magazine hits, and then make it back to port to repair. But yeah, I'm fighting all this. There may be some stuff happening in China soon. Everything that's pink is the EU, which the Dutch get decisions to expand the faction. The Poles get focuses. I mean, that's kind of cool for me because the faction is going to expand. I think, based on timing, I'm pretty sure Greece has already been invited to the faction and just told the Poles to bug off. So I don't have to worry about that, but I'm not sure. But the first faction I'll be dealing with is sometime after I'm doing this focus path. Then I'm going to be establishing social welfare, women's rights and equality. That will, in turn, not only great for role playing, but will, since I'm taking a very egalitarian communism, socialism that actually lives up to its ideals a lot more than the Soviet Union ever did. Instead of New Soviet Woman, true equality, which, I mean, New Soviet Woman represents the steps the Soviets took in that direction, but they didn't really achieve it fully, full women's equality. The Soviets have a focus called New Soviet Woman. Then I probably read Rapid Army Expansion, although I might also consider where the heck? Well, I might want to form the paratroopers, or do some Navy focuses. Finish this and grab these for the extra dockyards. Autobahn South and East are useless to me. Not worth it. Could be stuff I'm missing. It's been a little bit since I saw this. As I said, this focus won't be done because I can go autarky path. But I don't need it for anything. Just improves an industrial concern. I got the whole Volks commissary thing to reach quickly, so I can integrate some of the puppets that were carved out of my own core territory in reasonable time. So I got a lot to do. I need to go to service by requirement, and then at some point after total mobilization, and I got to fill up probably hiring an elusive gentleman, and I could do the Marxist philosopher for the political power for a good while, or I could do the workers educator if I was started controlling non-core territory for the compliance game. I don't think I'll control that much for a long time, so probably not. But these are some of the things happening, and the first thing will be to do when I get slightly more forces, I'm getting very close to it, is closing this bubble into French territory the Belgians made at Sedan, retaking all that French core, then slowly pushing all these into one province and destroying the encirclement of EU troops. Then I'll be pushing up through Belgium to the Netherlands, and after they're capitulate, I can focus on the Poles, who sooner or later will be going to war with the Soviets. They have a non-aggression pact with them currently, but the Soviets also have a war goal on them. At some point, that'll get canceled. So, lots of stuff going on. That's an overview. It also helps me remember what the heck I was doing. I'm still waiting for France to technically choose their political direction. The Bulgarians are recovering Italian territories for some dumb reason. The Italians just tell them no, and I think they get a war goal, but they're already at war with the Italians, so I'm not even sure if that does them any good. Maybe it makes it cheaper to like annex Italian territories after the war. The Turks joined the faction previously because they were attacked by the Soviets. They're doing this. They risk ending up having a Kemlist rebellion in the middle of the war. Afghanistan joined the faction, and they're doing tech sharing. Cool. Get a research slot. Knowingly, Iran joined the Danubian Federation, which also contains the United States. They have a lot of oil, Iran. And the Nubian Federation, because of Austrian focus, is eventually going to attack me. So I've got that strategic threat. Community Nations is actually created by Mexico. It's, if they try to join allies don't exist. They create this nation. I mean, this faction, or maybe it's just a randomly generated. But while Mexico is currently the leader of that, Britain will eventually take over. And once they've taken over, they'll be able to create collab governments. I was wondering why the British weren't doing that before, even where they have the collaboration. It's because they're in a democratic faction. They can't create collab governments yet. So things will be happening. Mussolini will be eating it eventually. He can't maintain power forever when he doesn't control some of his cores. Enemies of people is from Soviet focus. The Soviets probably be going socialist humanism soon, but the loss of Istria, which is an Italian core, and Litorale guarantees that eventually Italy will have a civil war. But there's a lot, and it's been a bit. I think I've been talking for enough. You folks got an idea what I was up to. Oh yeah, 25 minutes. So this has been an interlude. It's been a bit of a reference to what things are going on, interesting things. I'm pretty sure I've talked about most of them, except the redesign I did aircraft. I still haven't figured out what I'm going to do with the Ericspeed because it'll cap out again very quickly. And I'm running out of any even marginally useful aircraft designs to do. Looks like the Balkan Federation requested occupation of the state instead of leaving it with Spain. Actually have a lower resistance target because they're more stable than the Spanish. So, and they transferred ownership at very low compliance, so that actually can do a better job of occupying Portugal than Spain. And after the war, this probably means to be a tiny microstate puppet in Beja. Cool, I guess. Extra build slots might destroy 3, but it should create 10, so 7 more. I don't know. Switzerland is sitting very communist. Would be pretty easy to get them to go communist via civil war. They should be losing non-aligned support, I think. So eventually, there's a small chance, and I might be able to help the spies, that they could actually go communist via election, unless it's been disabled for them. I could even just push ideology instead of the Civil War thing. But I can make them a puppet with Civil War focused commissary, even integrate them someday, so that might be better. I don't know. The Nordics are all going right-wing paths. Monarchists are maybe fascist. They got bought. Fascist, they got bought. The historical non-aligned path with Finland, but then Estonia created a fascist rebellion in Finland that succeeded, so then they became White Finland. Then they joined Axis, joined the war against me. I beat their rears. They also attacked the Soviets. I ended up carving up them into all these little states. The enemy is the people thing means the Soviets invaded Lappy and they're holding on to it. They could give it to the Socialist Republic of Finland. It's a completely independent member of their faction. It has cores, but the Soviets probably won't do that. So they probably just puppet this after the war. Well, depending on how they would if they won, they'll lose, so it'll just be returned because this is a faction member. Unless they somehow get a collaboration government, which is unimaginable. That's such low compliance, it would have to go on forever. The British are also nowhere near a collab government here in Kanto. Chinese even further, really. Or no, actually they're closer because they have lower resistance, so they'll drop to different occupation a lot sooner. And Japan still exists up here in the Kuril Islands, which means, well, collab governments can be created. Yeah, that's it. Keep an eye out for, I'll be returning to this eventually when I'm feeling a little better and more up to this. I've been going at the save and looking at to refamiliarize myself with my plans and my ideas. And get more in the spirit of Hearts Iron 4 again, more familiar with the 2-player multiplayer US Mexico game I was doing, which I said I may need to hand off Mexico to a different player because the guy I was doing with just lost interest. He's more interested in getting high all the time, pot, which is legal, I believe, where he lives, than in than in continuing the game. I don't know, immaturity there, I think, partly. Continue what you start, but whatever. So a more reliable Steam friend that I also have the 3-player multiplayer game going with. Of the 2 people, though, the one is more reliable. The other is getting busy with college. I may never start streaming that. I'll probably pick that back up, and that'll get me more in the spirit of this as well, because that's also a Gotterdammerung, whereas the 3 players before this DLC. So I'll come back to it. In the meantime, I'm doing Rise of Nations Let's Plays. They seem to get a ton of viewers, not quite as much as this, so I prefer to do this. This game is also in many ways more satisfying, but I'll be working towards doing the Cold War campaign eventually when I get better at that game, or just have had enough of other campaigns and skirmishes. So check that out, I guess. I have a lot of other Let's Play series. I've been continuing my Citizen Sleeper. Wilder Myth, I like to pick back up, but it had terrible viewership numbers. Unless it gets a few more viewers, I can't even justify picking back up for a while. Potion Craft, somehow that's, of all my recent Let's Play series, has the best viewership numbers, even better in this game. So even though it interests me probably the least of the games I've been doing, I need to return to that. Vorion, which has had pretty decent numbers. Did very well in the first couple of videos, but it's now performing less than this. So I'll probably continue this before I go too much into Vorion, though I'll do a few more videos. I should have known the initial excitement would start to die off when I'm just doing a lot of mining and haven't gotten to building stations yet, space stations. Yeah, I got games, and there's still stuff like Return to Kerbal Space Program, which is still to this day the best viewership series I ever did. I did that in 2014. Take care of each other, folks. Come back, watch this series when I pick it back up a little bit. Also, before I forget, the devs are fixing a bug with this focus. It doesn't currently work correctly. It's in the bug reports. Someone showed that it was just a single letter that was misspelled in the code that was causing this focus to not apply the effects to Brute Spirit. Anything but the democracy support, making it a noob trap and a debuff instead of a buff. So that's another reason I initially paused this, because I was thinking I might do that focus soon, and it would be bugged, and I wanted it to be fixed before. Anyhow, you can pop over the Paradox forums. There's a lot of other bug reports I made that got ignored. Only that one got fixed, and suggestions I made that also getting ignored, but whatever. I'll see you guys around. Take care of each other. Be kind to yourselves. May always find a guiding star to lead you home. Adieu.